Okay, guys, so welcome to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Her name's Roxanne from Everlasting Light, and she's an authority on what's called human design, and she's going to jump into that and kind of explain a little bit about that. So welcome, Roxanne. So great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. I love how you use the word authority for human design. Someone I was recently on a podcast, she used the word expert, and I'm still working through that because it's like, oh, I know I'm not.
We keep learning all the time, right? So
Exactly.
the bar
Constantly
keeps
learning.
moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. So if you want, I can go ahead and talk about human design, and just kind of like what it's done for me and what I think it can do for other people.
Perfect. Yeah. So anyone listening, Roxanne, she's going to take it from here and give you a little bit about her story, maybe her backstory, and what human design is and what it can do for you. Because I guess Roxanne, not too many people are familiar. I know I definitely was not familiar with this until you kind of brought it up. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and kind of just give people the 101 on human design?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, my backstory, I've always been a seeker. And I mean, just from the little bit that I know of you, I feel like maybe you have this in you as well. Like you're just always like, what is there? There's something more. There's something more. Always seeking. And I've been doing that since I was little. So when I'm seeking, I'm finding, and I just keep following the little breadcrumbs. And some of the breadcrumbs led me to, where I saw you on stage, and I got like, there was this connection, and I did reach out to you afterwards. And then we've sort of been connected from then just through like social media and stuff. So I think it's really cool how, the universe or spirit or God, however we, like to identify with what is guiding us, maybe even our internal selves, I feel like is just guiding us and leaving like those little breadcrumbs along the way. And if we can see them or hear them or listen and follow that, it brings you to really cool places and spaces and meeting new people and learning new things. So all the while I'm thinking, I am controlling all of this. Like I am doing this with my mind, and I am pushing and forcing and making things happen and sort of stressing myself out along the way, wondering how I could figure it all out. So, but all the while kind of like listening to those little synchronicities and kind of having this mix. And then one day I discovered human design. I wasn't even sure what it was. And, if I were to show you the chart, the body graph that they call it, it's kind of like, what is this? And how do I read it? And what's going on here? But there's a part of me that's like, I need to know what this is. I have no idea why, but I need to know. So I bought some books, and I was really like trying to dig deep in understanding it.
Okay.
But I feel like there's this really important piece that needs to go along with aligning with our life purpose. It's that of right timing. So at the time, this was like probably 6 or 7 years ago, I couldn't understand it. I just really wasn't embodying the knowledge. I kept trying so hard to learn, and I couldn't. So I put it down, in so much frustration because I put so many hours and days into it, and I just put it down because I was trying to tell people about their design, and they're like, I don't resonate. No, that's not me. It's like, well, maybe this isn't why am I so interested in this? So I put it down for a while, and then a couple of years passed doing all sorts of other things, and then it came into my awareness again. And then it continues to come into my awareness. And so I thought, okay, cool, I'm going to start learning this. And I found a teacher that I really understood and resonated with. So then I learned and learned and learned. And as soon as I started understanding and receiving that permission, so one of the pieces that I received for me is that I can kind of just sit back and things will come to me. Basically like what I dream would happen in my life, that I don't have to push, force, and work so hard. Things will just be presented to me. Like imagine just sitting back and something comes to me like, hey, would you like to do this? Yeah. Would you like to try this? Sure. Would you like to have this? Like it's just like way better than trying to figure it all out. So
Mhm.
that's been my journey up until the point of understanding and embodying it. And then I started kind of playing with it and doing readings. Um, and then now I've done many, many readings, and every single person, aside from maybe a couple of people, and I noticed like the age range, people that kind of remind me of my father, where he's sort of like, yeah, no, he'll say that any sort of advice that I give him, he'll be like, no, but this is how I see it. And then he'll kind of in a roundabout way say he agrees.
Mm, so he's not
So
really
I've had like,
didn't really acknowledge what was coming from you, kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Which I think it's maybe a generational thing. So I've had a couple of people that were around his age or older, and giving them a reading because their kids sent them to me or something. They're like, oh my gosh, you need to know about this. And I noticed they're like, yeah, I already do that. Oh, I already knew that. Okay. So it's
Mm,
kind of like this like ego thing, which
mhm.
is fine. And it's kind of laughable. And I'm just kind of like sitting back like, yes. And potentially human design is a tool, right? So even if it doesn't resonate with someone, I believe that we're always aligning and aligning. We just eventually will know what doesn't work for us as we get older and older. So even those people who may be older, they're like, yeah, I know, I figured that out already, because
Mhm.
over time life is just showing you, right? It's just whether or not you want to listen. And human design, it's this blend of a few other systems that are ancient. So astrology, the Kabbalah, I Ching, the chakras, and this man. So he claimed to have channeled this information in the late 80s. So this is very new, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it feels like, if anybody resonates with astrology and their horoscope for their sun sign, some people may go deeper and learn about their rising sign or their moon sign. And then they start to uncover a few other pieces of themselves that it just adds to it. And then with, your with human design, it's similar, where you take your time and date of birth and you have this blueprint. Like when you were born, you were imprinted with this information, and it kind of guides you. It's not necessarily like this map that you follow. It's basically this blueprint. You can take it or leave it, experiment with it, and it basically shows you like, this is likely who you are, this is likely your gifts, this is likely your
Mhm.
challenges, um, and ignore the shit that you don't have consistently, because this is like variable and you may not have access to that consistently. Focus and drill down on the things that you have access to. And that's where it's like, ooh, it's given me so much permission. And I've started this process of deconditioning, where I'm starting to put down stuff that's not meant for me, masks that I put on for others, like thinking I had to be a certain way to be accepted, or successful. And then just continue to like let my true self unfold. So true authenticity has been my goal. And I'm constantly, it's a learning process, right?
Incredible, incredible. Cool. So yeah, I know we were discussing a little bit about human design just prior to the podcast. So what, if you can, kind of describe maybe in like a couple sentences, like what is human design for people who they don't get it, they don't understand it. What is human design and what can it do for them?
Okay. So, um, what human design isn't. So I'm going to find a little
Okay.
quote from Ra Uru Hu himself, because he is the founder of this, or the bringer forth of this information. So he says the human design system is not a belief system. It does not require that you believe in anything. It is neither stories nor philosophy. It is a concrete map to the nature of being, a mapping of your genetic code. This ability to be able to detail the mechanics of our nature in such depth is obviously profound, because it reveals our complete nature in all its subtleties. Human design opens the door to the potential of self love, a love of life, and the love of others through understanding. So that in a nutshell is basically, like, and I had mentioned earlier, it's this kind of like mishmash of a bunch of different things.
Hmm.
Um, so people that resonate with astrology, they'll see that there's astrology within this human design system. People who resonate with the I Ching or the chakras, there's little pieces here and there you could recognize. And it gets super detailed, but in the initial, you know, when you're initially introduced to human design, a lot of experts recommend that you learn your energy type first
Okay.
and your authority. So these two things are really important because then you understand how your energy is meant to operate in the world and how you make decisions. So that's sometimes a lot of the struggle, right? When you're like, I want to
Hmm.
make the best decision to have the best outcome. What if I make the wrong decision? Because I've been burned before, like we
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
have those experiences where we've made mistakes. And the really beautiful thing about human design, after having like learned, I still have so much to go, but
Of course. Of course.
learning all of what I've learned, it's basically like giving a permission to be who you already naturally want to be. But then you have something in writing. It's this little blueprint
Mhm.
here showing you like, oh, you feel like you don't really have motivation 3 out of the 5 days of the week or 3 out of the 7 days a week. Oh, guess what? Look at, you don't need to.
Mhm.
Like,
Literally explains what you're thinking, but no one's ever articulated it before,
yeah,
and you're finding this thing that
exactly.
articulates. Like, and I guess I'll just jump in quick because when you like, I had no clue what this was at all, and then when you basically said that my type was a projector, I'm like, well, that makes sense, right? Because maybe you can go into a little bit about like just a tiny bit about projector because it's from what I understand, and you're the authority on this, right? But from what I understand, it's like you don't operate consistently. It's like basically like you'll need these rest periods, you'll go hard and then you'll rest for a little while. I'm not sure if you can kind of explain a little bit about maybe the different types. I know there's a few different types of one of them being projector. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So there are, different types, and I have an actual like a free guide that, if anybody's interested in diving a little deeper. Um, but so for instance, a projector, like, so you said you're a projector, and it's really cool because projectors, like, you have anybody that I know that's a projector, I highly respect their opinion, especially after I've asked for it. So after I share this with you, so a projector, you have so much wisdom, you can see efficiencies that others may not see, and then you have this gift for others. And there are different variations of projectors. So for the most part, most of the projectors have this gift for others. So your value is to be a kind of like this way shower. And the important piece to know for a projector is to wait for that invitation, because you might be able to speak to this more. I'm not a projector, so I don't know, but um,
Mhm.
if you think, you see someone doing something and you're like, wait, I can see how you could get better results. Let me tell you. And you just tell them. And then they kind of just look at you like, I didn't ask for your
Mhm.
opinion. Like, has that
Exactly.
happened to you?
Of course, all the time
Yeah.
because I can always see, right? So
Yeah. And so what happens is, you really need, it's important for you to be recognized before you share those gifts. So that may be, sometimes it turns into the flip side where a projector will feel bitter and they're like, but why can't they see?
can't you get
Come on.
it?
This is
Yeah.
the way. It's so much easier. And then you watch someone have to kind of like flutter around and bump into life and, go the long way around. And you're just like, oh, I could just see a better
Mhm.
way.
I know.
So what's
Incredible.
happening there, yeah, is the universe is directing and redirecting your attention and your energy. So if you're ever in a situation with a person or like a situation, if you find you're like just kind of feeling that emotion of bitterness, just know that that's the universe being like, well, that's just not your situation to, fix right now, or to
Mhm.
help this person. Like, once they recognize that you can do that, then you can give all of the advice that you would like. You'll
Yeah.
sense that
Got to be
invitation.
open. Once
Yeah.
it's open, you can just give it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, my recommendation for projectors is always to turn it in within and recognize yourself. Focus on
Wow.
yourself and recognize just internally. You don't even have to share it with anybody. Just recognize, like, man, I'm good at this, and this is amazing. Um, yeah. And so just like a little quick brush over of the 5 energy types. We talked about projectors. Generators is like me. So I'm a generator, and we're here to respond. So a lot like the invitation, but a little bit different. And there's a lot of other nuances in human design where, it kind of overlays. Like, I have a lot of areas in my chart specifically that I need to wait for invitations as well. So it's kind of like a nice general rule of thumb anyway. um, but so for me as a generator, I'm meant to respond to life. So when I heard of this, it was kind of bittersweet, because I was like, wow, I just need to wait and respond. Like, this feels so amazing. I don't have to push. Like, things are just going to drop into my lap, basically, the more I'm aligned. And it's true. However, when you're in that, kind of like, you need to develop that trust muscle, right? So there's that in between phase where it's really hard to trust. And even now, like, I'm in an in between phase right now where I'm, transitioning from one way to another, knowing that there's things that are dropping in and I'm getting little signs. It's hard because you want to like force things to happen or figure it out, or like,
You don't want to let go of the old way.
yeah,
Mhm.
there's simultaneously you're grieving the old way. And sure, we all had situations where we've worked ourselves so hard that maybe for a small temporary amount of time it's worked. However, we end up burning ourselves out. So then what happens after the fact, right? We don't have the energy to continue. So it's not sustainable. And so for generators, we get frustrated. If we're feeling out of alignment, our indication that we're out of alignment is frustration. So
Nice.
I get frustrated a lot. So then I
With the
have to
people
check in,
around
like,
you, you're like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's like a little sub energy group called manifesting generator. They are a part of the generators. They're meant to respond as well. And again, they have this feeling of frustration if things aren't working out. One of the first things that I say about a manifesting generator that tends to resonate with every single manifesting generator that I've talked to is they are multi-passionate. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, me. So multi-passionate. And sometimes they can, they're so quick. They have such a quick energy that they could attach to one thing, be so interested in it. They're focused on this skill or this hobby or this passion, and they love it. And then they burn, like, they're just kind of like, okay, I'm done with that, and they may put it down.
Mhm.
And other people around them might look at them and be like, what the heck, you need to stick through, you need to stay the
Wow.
course. But they will feel like, no, that is so frustrating, I can't do that. So some of them will maybe force, like, we tend to try to want to like contort to fit into society,
Mhm.
and that's all the conditioning. Whereas a lot of manifesting generators feel better about, like, sampling life. They can still have passions that stay, the course, but there's also other things. Like, I have a cousin who, she did candle making and she was right into it, got really great at it, mastered it quickly. And I thought, right on, are you gonna, this was before I knew about her human design, are you gonna do this like for a profession? And then she dropped it and was like, I'm gonna do crocheting now. And then she'll start crocheting. And then I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
God, you're so good at it. Why? And then she'll do something different. So it's really like fascinating to watch how much she's done. She can move way faster than I can, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong, and it doesn't mean
Mhm.
she's wrong for moving fast. So it's a beautiful thing that we can just understand each other and then have compassion for ourselves and just
Mhm.
celebrate the things that we're good at. And there's two other types. The manifester, their strategy is to inform. They need to, and this kind of feels like they don't want to do it because they can have this like underlying feeling of anger if someone tries to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a few manifestors, and I'm now trying to speak to them in a way of like, what's beautiful to support a manifester, if you know one, is to not ask direct questions, like, do you want to go here? It could, just that little tiny question could kind of spark something in them like, don't tell me what to do.
Wow.
Instead, offer them like a kind of rephrase it like, hey, I'm thinking of going here next week. I would love to have you. So if you want to join, let me know. It just immediately opens that door, and it just allows them to feel like, okay, this is, safe and I can decide. So
Mm-hmm.
my oldest son is a manifester, and he knows that I do this, and he says he feels so much better ever since I've started like suggesting as opposed to telling or asking, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just feel like I can breathe. And so they're meant to inform. That can help to clear their path a little more, is just telling people that what they're up to. But a lot of them might be like, no way, I don't want to do that because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
anybody's opinion. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
do, because they're meant to just do whatever. They're not meant to get advice. And the reflectors, they are like the most rare of the types, and they're sort of here to kind of like just feel how the collective is up, like what the collective is up to, how, you know how I don't know, like how well we're doing. They can sense the underlying tones, like if you have ever sent a text with a smiley face, but you're like sitting there bawling your eyes out, they can
Okay.
read the undertone. Like, what are you
Wow.
right? Because they will feel it. They feel, they pull in this energy, and they just feel basically everyone and anything in their environment all around them. So it's really beautiful to have a reflector in your life, and you can, just like a mirror, you can sort of like, what you see in them is basically so you can just
Mm-hmm.
trust that if you really enjoy how this, because they can be this chameleon, and they can sort of like adapt to wherever they are in life. So it's really cool. Their indication from the universe is disappointment. They like to be surprised at life. They like to be delighted. And they're really meant to wait a very long time, like to make decisions. So making a decision usually takes, they're very lunar. So it usually takes like 28 days to have full clarity. Um, Obviously for bigger things, like not decisions like, where would you like to go to eat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hold on, let me get back to you in 28 days.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, you'd be starving by then.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all the energy types. And it just kind of goes to show you, even though there's five, we still have so many pieces to our chart that kind of like help to differentiate us. And we all have differences. And it helps to really just celebrate yourself and your gifts. And then,
Mm-hmm.
understand, like I even pulled up as many, I don't have a lot of X's, but a couple of X's, I found their birth times. And if I didn't, I kind of just ran their chart anyway and got a gist of what kind of energy they had. And it just healed my past. Like it healed things
Wow.
that I thought, oh my gosh, it wasn't me. It was, they're just who
Mm-hmm.
they are. So it's
Wow.
been so beautiful, like just even understanding my parents now, or like
Wow.
myself and my kids. And yeah,
Wow.
it's amazing. Hmm.
Wow. I think like one of the biggest, I guess, benefits that people get is they feel like, oh, okay, it's not me, right? Because someone feels like,
Hmm.
how come everybody else is telling me, you got to do this, or you got to fit into this little square. And I just feel like, no, I just can't do it, right? So,
Hmm.
and you feel like, well, maybe something's wrong with me because I can't do what they're asking me to do. But it can be like, oh my God, I get it now. Like that's actually who I am. Like I am, this is exactly who I am. That's why I don't fit, right? If you're like a triangle trying to fit into a square, it's just not going to go, right? And it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because they don't go together. So maybe
Mhm.
you find that a lot of people who have like, oh my God, these aha moments, like I get it now. That's exactly
Yeah.
why, you kind of just spoke to exactly what I've been thinking my whole life. How
Yeah.
could you, yeah, could you maybe speak on that a little or?
Ugh, it gives me life. Like that's why I continue to do this and learn more, because you can get so deep into so one example is my son. He always likes to snack at night. And if we were to listen to the narrative of society, and certain people might say like it's not good to eat after dark, or it's not good to eat past a certain time. However, his human design, literally, we can dig so deep into knowing how it's best for us to digest. And that's
Wow, it's
food.
that
That's
into
yeah,
digestion. I didn't even, yeah,
I
that's
know.
huge.
It's
I'm
just
brand new with
it,
this, so that's
I
incredible.
know. It
Wow.
gets so detailed. And for him, it's best for him to digest after the sun has gone down. So he naturally wants to eat after dark. And I remember when he was small, when he was littler, he had issues with digestion. But of course, as a baby or a young child, he was always in bed before dark. So it's so fascinating to now see that he's got really great digestion, because he doesn't have me like, he's a teenager now. So I'm like, yeah, eat whenever you want, make your own meals. And he comes down tick, 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 after everybody's asleep. And then he's thriving. And same with,
Mhm.
so digesting information. So for him, studying is best at night. And I asked him that too, like, do you thrive? Is it easier for you to study at night or during the day? He's like, oh, at night, hands down. And doing work like that, like he's just really on it at night. So it's just really cool. Like, and when I can have an initial, I love introducing people to human design, because that initial like
Mhm. I
especially
got that for sure.
yeah, like uh you see me, like that feeling, and it makes me feel good, because I love the feeling of being safe in another's presence, and the feeling that you're not going to be judged and you're celebrated for your authentic self. And although I've now curated a life where I have, maybe 1%, of people in my life would be judgmental, like, I don't know, that doesn't seem safe. Why are you doing that?
Wow,
But the
that's
rest of
incredible.
them, I know I can celebrate that. It's just amazing that now I've curated this space where people in my life are just like, yeah, you do you. And
Incredible.
now I can also show them that it works. And sometimes, when I'm in the in between, like, I'm like, I think it's going to work. I'm
Yeah,
going to
oh, here we
trust.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and then it just works. It's like, I knew it. It's just that, it's scary. It's scary, to make
Mhm.
changes. Um, and then also giving permission to others for being themselves. So one example, my friend, she has so she has, there's these centers, there's 9 centers in our body graph, and she has an undefined solar plexus center. And this means that you can be in someone's space and feel their emotions intensely, whether that's high or low emotions. And so it's really important for her to understand that, because when you have awareness, then you're not blaming yourself like, ugh, why am I all of a sudden feeling this way when I wasn't 5 minutes ago? And her need to want to retreat and just be alone sometimes. Um, she has another part of her human design chart where it just feels really good for her to be alone sometimes. And it's really important for her to do that so that she can discharge, she can cleanse, be in her own space to just really process and integrate things. So once I shared that with her, she's like, oh, I've been forcing myself to be with people longer than I wanted to, because I felt like an asshole. Like I just felt like a jerk for not wanting to be around these people. And I'm like, no, 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 you're not meant to. Like, take breaks.
Mhm.
You can be with people for a couple of hours and then chill, allow yourself and stand up for yourself. Now it's now more than ever, it's so important for us to recognize we have sovereignty, and we can really, like, it's so important for us to stand up for our energy, because we have so much to give to the world. And if we're just constantly giving our power away, how can we show up fully and completely? How can we show up that, like, as that bright light for other people to feed off of? Or, I mean, that doesn't
Mhm.
sound great.
No, it does.
But
It's like a
right?
battery, right? It's like if you
Yeah.
got to have your battery fully. If it's draining, you have nothing to give. You have no power to give. So I know I
Yeah.
get it, 100%.
Right. Yeah. So, and then in that sense too, it's not necessarily that you're like giving away energy. The idea, I guess, is to like have so much that you're so full that you're
Mhm.
giving the spill off. You're taking all you need and then handing over
Mm.
that sparkly energy. So
Mhm.
for me as a generator, a term that they say, um, with generators is that we have the energy to give, like, as long as we're doing stuff that's lighting us up. Like right now, I love talking about human design, and you may feel that, like, you may feel the, like, sparkles coming through, because it's like so lit up. I'm so lit up that just naturally, so after this call, I could just walk to the grocery store, and whoever walks into my space and my aura, they'll be like, oh, I feel good right now. I don't know why.
Mhm.
So that's the idea with generators. Like, we can just, sprinkle that love along. But if we're doing stuff and forcing ourselves to do stuff we don't enjoy, it's not happening. Nobody's getting
Mhm.
anything. We're not, and the people around us aren't.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's like I
Mhm.
always see it like it's either, usually it's like a connection where there's a win-win, or if there's no connection, I mean, it's actually win-win to just kind of go your separate ways. How do you kind of resonate with that? If
Do you mean like if you aren't feeling it?
exactly, like if sometimes it's better for both people to go their own ways if they're not
Yeah,
getting along, kind of thing.
totally.
Yeah.
Um, and if it's people in your life that you feel like, so like family, if you feel like, well, I mean, I couldn't just, I need to see them for Christmas dinners, and
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
can still take little pieces here and there. And, you know, ideally, the main goal, ideally, and not a lot of us can do this immediately, right? This immediate shift of like, nope, I don't like it. Nope, nope, nope. It may be a shock
Mhm.
to our nervous system and depends on how far along this journey we are. But now, there's this example that, like, if you are, I give this example to a lot of my clients. So if you aren't really feeling it, but you're feeling this huge obligation, sometimes, it depends. Like, it's up to you whether you want to go and, fill that obligation, so to speak. But energetically, you're not doing anything for that person, honestly.
Yeah. You might even be
So
detracting in some way.
potentially,
Yeah.
because you're feeling like oof, and you're so low, and they may sense that as well, depending on what their energy type is. So it would be best to have your own back. And, let's say somebody's like, hey, can you help me move? You can just say, no, I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah. I guess you could kind of be blunt.
uh,
Yeah.
right? Or you could be like, oh my gosh, no, my energy, I just need to take care of myself right now. I'm going through something, whatever it takes. But highly recommend not to insert any sort of, like, excuse. Like, practice
Mhm.
being more in alignment with standing up for yourself. For me now, I have human design, so I can, like, as a recovering people pleaser, I can just be like, oh yeah, I'm practicing this human design thing, and it says that if I'm not feeling it, I just can't do it. I mean, it's not good for you. So I love you. So no.
Yeah, but that's cool. If it's, if
Right?
it's authentic, I think that's cool. I think that's cool.
Right?
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more respectable if you're just like, hey, this is exactly how it is. It's respectable, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it for sure. Um,
Totally.
so quick question. So do you find there's a difference between like guys and girls, or men and women that come to you, or do you find like it's, do the types affect based on, you know, guys or girls, or do you find like there is not much of a dynamic when it comes to that?
Um, of course, I've had more women come to me for readings, but I have had men, and I really love that because, especially if they come on their own accord, because it means that society is shifting, and
Mhm.
I'm really loving seeing more conscious and emotionally intelligent men who are wanting to understand these things. So one of the things, though, is that I think where it can get different is the conditioning. So depending on whether you're a man or a woman, you may have different conditioning, right? So if you have an undefined solar plexus, like I was mentioning earlier, you sense other people's emotions. So as a man in society, sometimes men are told like it's not cool to cry or it's not cool to be emotional. So they may shift
Yeah.
their emotions to something different, or they may react differently or cope in a different way. Um, so my son has this, and he's 8 right now, and I tend to show him other ways that he can release, because it gets stored in our body if we hang on to it too much, and that can affect our bodies, right? So I show him ways he can release, because it's harder for him to find the words to explain. Because how do you explain? You're like, all of a sudden I'm feeling really sad, or all of a sudden I'm feeling really angry. I don't know why. It's technically likely, sorry, the person that's in your space. So for him, I'm like, okay, if you're feeling really angry, let's grab a pillow and just scream into that pillow. Or if you really just want to hit something and release that anger, punch a pillow. So finding safe ways to release that. And that can go for anybody that feels like they're not allowed to feel. And then there's one other thing that just came to mind as you were talking is, in dating, in the dating scene. So projectors technically are meant to be invited, right? So in society, a lot of people would say like the man has to present, if it's like a heterosexual relationship, the man has to present to the woman, like,
Of course,
and
yeah.
approach them. Whereas that might not feel correct or aligned. You can, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of like articles that I've read that that's like a suggestion is for the man to wait to be invited. So, and then
I
it
mean, it
goes
doesn't go
both.
down to everybody, but I get it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like it goes both ways. So like whether you're a woman in a projector or a man in a projector, or you're in different types of relationships, like it'd be interesting to like, if you're two projectors, well, who invites who?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
it can get nuanced, and the invite can be that you see that that person is interested, like that's
exactly.
all
It's
the
like you
invitation you
feel like
need.
that opening, and that's when you can
Yeah,
go in. Like
for
so,
sure.
but I think that's the quote unquote inviting. It's the inviting. It's like, okay, this person's like open, or like, yeah, receptive. I think that would
Right.
be, and then you can kind of go in, and
Yeah.
you can go in as long as the inviting doesn't have to be overt, right? It could be
Right.
like
No, energetically.
exactly. So I think that's a
Yeah,
really good point as well. Yeah.
for sure. And then you could always like, so another point for projectors, because you're a projector, you could always all along the way, and this goes for anything. So if you're not sure, like if you're like, this energy feels like my advice or my um, approach is invited, you could still, you know, what is the word I'm trying to say? Like you can start off with, hey, I have a thought. Do you want to hear? So it's still another
Mm.
like,
You're
just in
qualifying to see
case.
if
Yeah,
they
there
want
you
to
go.
actually get
Yeah,
the information or not. Yeah. Or
right.
if yeah.
So you can keep doing that along the way
Mhm,
just to be
exactly.
safe. And then it helps to keep that energy flowing in that way.
Mhm. Cool.
Mhm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Incredible. Okay, so yeah, so basically, a couple other things. When it comes to, I guess, this new consciousness, there's the term, I guess, Christ consciousness that gets thrown around a lot. I'm sure a lot of people have kind of heard that. Now, interesting enough, I think we both actually grew up Roman Catholic, I believe, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said that human design has no it's not a belief system. So how does that work? Well, let's say someone did grow up, Catholic, and like there's a lot of good intent behind a lot
Yeah.
of these, Roman Catholic, like the whole intent, behind Christ and being Christ-like. Um, how would that? Let's say somebody grew up like Roman Catholic, any religion, you can kind of just adapt to yourself. But let's say someone grew up Roman Catholic, how would that kind of correlate with this concept of human design, since it is not quote unquote a belief system? Maybe you can kind of speak to that, if you could. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know if I do it justice. Like I was a semi-practicing Catholic. Like I,
Yeah.
went to school, Catholic schools, and I went to church. And when I was little, like admittedly so, I would just not listen. I would just kind
Mhm.
of be in my head
Well, we're
and
kind
not
of
really
thrown into it
listening.
almost, right? So.
Yeah. So it really wasn't like I just wanted to be a part of it because my friends were. So that's really what it was for me.
Mhm.
Um, and then as I got older, I started choosing to not practice because there were some parts of it that I didn't agree with, and
Yeah.
opening up and exploring other, not other religions, but just understanding spirituality on a like how it feels to me. And so the way I see human design is like it's this tool, and it's not necessarily um, it's not dogmatic. It's not meant to be dogmatic. It's
Yeah.
meant to be expansive. It's meant to be just this, hey, this is how your energy works. And it's not meant to be like you do not have to believe it. Like it's not a belief system, and it's not
Yeah.
something that anybody has to have or even needs to have. So
Mhm.
if someone prefers, like their connection to source, although I'm using this and I use the term universe and I use the term source often, and it feels really like this deep connection to
Mhm.
source or God or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Because what is giving us those opportunities? I don't know. Like, what is it that's giving us those opportunities? Some might say God, some might say the universe. So for me, it's a matter of like a tool of understanding my mechanics and my genetics and how I'm conditioned, how maybe I was imprinted with my own gifts, but then also my ancestors' gifts, and or as stuff to decondition from my ancestors, maybe shadows, things that I feel like I don't deserve in this lifetime, but my whole being, my soul thinks that's actually my desires, but I don't believe I deserve it because nothing in my past or my ancestors' past shows me that it's possible. So it's a matter of like just utilizing it as a tool as opposed to this like end all be all. And everyone who talks about human design, well, some people might be like, this is it. Like, and even me, I'm like, this is the answer. Like, oh, I found it because it's something that's easier, like it's tangible, um, as opposed to really trying to tune in. And some people meditate, some people pray, and as opposed to trying to tune into the messages, sometimes we still do that. Like with human design, we still do that. It's kind of like this tool that we can use alongside of whatever our belief system is and experiment with it. So a lot of human design teachers and experts will talk to you about experimenting, and even the founder, he says experiment, to just try it, don't believe me, just try it, like,
Wow. That's
and
incredible.
you'll see. Yeah, just experiment and play around with it, and if it doesn't resonate, put it down, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. Okay. So yeah. So basically, I think we'll kind of wrap it up here. If in conclusion, is there anywhere that, let's say people, they like what they're hearing and they kind of want to dive deeper into what you got going on? What can they do? Where can they go to kind of dive deeper if that's what they're looking for?
Yeah, for sure. So, of course, they can go to my website. So that's
I'll link it.
www.everlastinglight.ca.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I have couple of free offerings there. And one being, so if you're really new to human design, it's this human design intro guide. So it talks to you about your energy types, mainly. So then you get to learn kind of the brief overview of your energy type. And then it shows you, like, I'll show you how to run your own chart, where to go for that. And then it just, you can take this guide and then learn about everybody else. So if you know friends and family's time and date of birth, then you can run their charts and then kind of get a gist of what their energy type is about. And of course, I have other offerings after that to go even deeper.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, thank you so much, Roxanne. I found it really, it's going to be really valuable to anybody who's looking to get more into human design, or kind of learning more about it. And yeah, now that they can take the further step, go to your website, check out your courses, your offerings. I think it's going to be really, really great value for whoever's listening. So yeah, just want to thank you once again, and looking forward to connecting sometime in the near future for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Marco. It was really fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.